Let's get into our discussion now. In a few hours, Nigeria will receive its first set of vaccines from the COVAX facility. About 3.92 million doses of the Covid-19 vaccine will arrive at Abuja today. This will make Nigeria the third West African country to benefit from the COVAX facility after Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. Vaccination is expected to commence with Nigerians in the priority group, starting with frontline health workers, and there are plans to vaccinate to no fewer than 70% eligible Nigerians aged 18 years and above in 4 phases within 2 years. So joining me now to discuss this is the CEO, Health Emergency Initiative, Pascal Achinine. It's nice to have you join me.
Thank you for having me.
Very
it's my
good.
pleasure.
And we also have on Skype from Ibadan, the medical laboratory scientist, Dr. Augustine Onyagala. It's nice to have you, Dr. Onyagala, for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Good morning. Now, let me start with Pascal here. I recall we've been talking about the vaccine and over the past few months, and now that the government has said that we expect the vaccine today at about 11 o'clock Nigerian time. Talk to me basically how you feel about this.
It's very cheering and exciting. It's better late than never. And what we see is that this is a time for statesmen to come into the saddle to demonstrate patriotism. In the way and manner this is handled would send a signal to the public that there's a government that walks the talk. Again, there has been a lot of skepticism around everything around COVID-19, both the management and then the vaccine. So it's a period, again, the way it will be handled, the way it will be administered, the way it will be distributed, and the flawless nature of access to it, especially for critical people who need it, will make the government regain the confidence of the people. So it's an opportunity. It's a very uncommon opportunity. It doesn't matter whether we got it in January. Perhaps it could have been sweet if we did. But as we rightly have it now, that's almost, if it's judiciously utilized, that's about 2% of the population, 3.9 to almost 4 million. So the other important question is, we are aware that this is here now. Let's say it is, and the next few hours we'll receive it. We need to have clarity. We know that the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency has launched a website for persons, for people, Nigerians, to register. Yeah. But we need to have evidence-based communication that shows across the states, across the segments of the society, this is the number that will go, this is the timeline, this is when this will be achieved. The vulnerable, the critical health workers, and of course, political actors and others, the armed forces and others. We are aware that those are the ones that will be given the first the first opportunity to be vaccinated.
The first priority.
Priority, so to say. But the most important thing is the public must see that what has been said, what guidelines have been that have been issued out, that is followed to the letter, and that there is not based on politics, is not based on a certain narrow interests. This is a time for patriotism. It's a time for statesmen to handle the process as technocrats.
All right. Let me come to you, Dr. Onyagala, to react to this. Now, the point there is, Nigerians are talking about, now we're expecting the vaccine to come in at about 11 a.m. this morning. And so many Nigerians have concern that enough awareness as to how this vaccine is going to be distributed, as much as those who are supposed to be on the first priority list of taking it is known, but how to distribute them, because health, those on the front line, we have them across the country. And when it comes to the awareness as to accepting the vaccine, the readiness to take the vaccine is another thing. What do you say about this?
All right. Thank you very much for that issue you just brought up this morning. First and foremost, we must congratulate the government for taking the right step in the right direction. All over the world, everybody needs the vaccine. And one good thing we need to congratulate the government on is adhering to public opinion. Initially, the government wanted to get the Pfizer vaccine, and there were a lot of issues about storage, maintaining cold chain, and things like that. But this afternoon or this morning, we are hearing that government is importing the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is quite bitter, which can be preserved between 2 to 8 degrees, just like any other vaccine. So that's a right step in the right direction. Because if government had gone ahead to say procure the Pfizer vaccine, definitely because of the challenges of maintaining cold chain across the country, I tell you, majority of the vaccine definitely would have been wasted. But with the current AstraZeneca vaccine that government has opted for, definitely implies that a lot of Nigerians will be disposed to take it, and then the temperature chain will be maintained since it's between 2 to 8. The next thing is a consign and who takes the vaccine and who should be the first that will take it. Yesterday, I heard in news that government has opened a website whereby they are collecting the database of Nigerians who want to take the vaccine. But the question is, government seems to be shifting from the initial information they share with the public. They said earlier that the frontline health workers will be the first to benefit from this vaccine before other people. So the question we should ask government, why are they changing that initial policy? Because a lot of frontline health workers are tricks that are exposed, so they should be able to have the benefit of taking the vaccine, since they're also committed to saving lives across the country. So I personally advise that government should look into that. One other important issue we need to talk about is also the safety and the efficacy of the vaccine. Of course, AstraZeneca vaccine, as a last check at WHO, is about 60 to 90% efficacious. Regulatory agency like NAFDAC has the responsibility to really do some validation check to ascertain whether this same precision check is the same within the country. So sometimes I keep asking, if Nigeria had produced this vaccine and then shipped to US, would the FDA take that vaccine hook, line, and sinker for her population? So these are all questions, policy questions, public health questions that everybody's asking. What is NAFDAC doing to really buy the confidence of Nigerians to really know that this vaccine is safe, it's been tried, it's been tested, it's been validated? Once NAFDAC can convince the population about the data they have for that, I very strongly that Nigerians will make themselves available to take the vaccine.
Okay. We'll come back to you on this. Now, the government has released a link for people to register ahead of time, and it is www.nphcdict.com.ng/public reg as a public registration, but it was public reg as one word. www.nphcdict.com.ng/public. And if you go to that site, it has a request for name, a request for your middle name and your surname, contact phone address, the email, and he asks your date of birth, and then your approximate age, your sex, that's your gender, and then your residential address and the state of residence, the local government of residence, ward of residence, and select your preferred vaccination site. These are some of the information they require from you. Do you work in the health sector? There's a question there, yes or no, and then it requires that you upload a facial photo of you, and then he asks if you have any medical condition, yes or no, any history of allergies, yes or no, and then that's basically what it requires. So for Nigerians who want to take, of course, everyone is expected to take, but nphcdict.com.ng/public reg. That's the site that government has released to collate all the information for those who want to take the vaccine. Now, how important is the issue of registration before the vaccine?
We don't have data as it were, so data is an issue in Nigeria, and this typically can be a channel of generating data. But of course, we recognize that there are some members of the population, there's some segments in the population that do not have access to smartphone, do not have access to even knowledge, skills of how to capture their information on the website launch. So there must also be in the short to medium term, a plan that will ensure those people who are not literate, those who do not have smartphone, those who do not have access to internet services, how they can also be captured, because it is not an elitist program. It's important to mention that this is the health of all and for the good of all, because even if it's someone who is a driver who lives in a slum and is infected, because I've seen a case where a managing director got infected, he died, his driver also got the virus and died just in January. And so it is not something that, okay, because I have access to this, we are the only ones that will access it. So it's important to recognize that there are persons whose information and data you can access through other channels, including designing a framework where such people can come together and with maintaining social distance, of course, you get their data. Because if we use only this medium to generate data, we may cut off perhaps 40% of the population. Okay. Especially in areas that are not prone to internet services, areas that are prone to security challenges, they may not be able to, we may not be able to generate their data. So it's very critical.
All right. Let me bring Dr. Onyegala in here. Now, it is not clear how long this the vaccine, when it comes in, will inoculate anyone, whether it's going to be for 6 months or whether it's going to be for 1 year or it's going to be for life. I wonder what you can tell us about this.
Great. I think based on the available protocol for vaccine for COVID-19, everyone who takes the vaccine is expected to take a single fixed dose and then a booster dose later. So the extent to which the vaccine is going to last depends on the volume that is available within country. So that's just it. So if we have enough volume that we go around the population, definitely everybody can get the fixed dose and then goes ahead to get the second dose. But then the sustainability of importation of vaccine in country, how have we handled that? You could hear Serum Institute of India, I think the President of India recently last week, they talked about the Indians will first take the vaccine before shipping to the world. Indians' population is about 1 billion. Nigeria is about 200 million. So if they are gracious enough to give us some volume now, are we sure that they are disposed to giving us more when we need in the future? I hope we not end in the situation whereby a particular group of people take just a shot and the vaccine will not be enough to go around the second shot of the vaccine. Because you need to have adequate protection of immunity after you have taken the second shot before you can be ascertained that you have developed a particular level of immunity. Then another thing is that vaccination and immunity is not the same. Some people may be vaccinated, but because of environmental issues, their in situ biological issues, they may not be able to develop the appropriate immunity required to tackle the vaccine. So these are all research issues. So we need that, and that's the essence of data government is collecting. And so one thing that required in this is data. Government wants to look at the people that are already registered. How many have really developed immunity? How many have pharmacovigilance issues? How many have toxicity issues? So that data is very important for government to be able to look at it maybe a few months after people have been vaccinated and then analyze the data and then come out, okay, this vaccine is working, this percentage of people have this issue, this percentage of these people have this issue. I think, so my take here is a sustainability, ability to get more volumes of vaccine that we go around the population after the fixed dose. We need to get that addressed.
Yeah, staying with you, there's a new variant that is discovered in the country, and I wonder if the vaccine is going to, or how it's going to compound the issue of the vaccine being taken when anyone who has the new variant takes the vaccine. I wonder how effective or efficacious it's going to be on them.
Yeah, to address this, I really want to take us to memory lane, and it's very pathetic that while we have congratulated government for importing vaccine, it's also very pathetic that in 21st century, government of Nigeria is still importing vaccines. As a scientist and many other scientists out there, everybody is not happy. So Nigeria as a country has the capacity. Let's go to memory lane. Serum Institute of India was established in 1966. That's about 55 years ago. The same period, Nigeria at Lagos there, Yaba, was exporting yellow fever and measles vaccine to other parts of the African nations. So how do we handle this? So because if you look at the science of genomics, when you profile a particular viral antigen in a particular country, you can use that genome of the virus to get appropriate vaccine for the people. So I believe as a scientist and any other virologists, vaccinologists out there will corroborate with this, that when you develop vaccines with strains, local and indigenous to the people, you are almost at 95% getting the people protected. That's the truth. So why are we still importing vaccine in 21st century in this country with a lot of vaccinologists, immunologists, toxicologists we have out there? I say Nigeria, at the same point that Indian Institute was developed, was exporting vaccine out of this country. So if we don't address these gaps, we will continue to import vaccines that will not be able to give our people the required and necessary protection of a particular viral antigen. Because outbreaks will continue to happen. COVID-19 is not the first, not going to be the last. So I expect that government should begin to do a lot of strategic thinking, strategic planning to see how we can resuscitate the vaccine production industries that we had earlier that gone moribund. If not, we keep spending a lot of money without getting the required outcome.
All right, Pascal, the Nigeria has, like Dr. Onyegala has said, we have recorded successes before. And even currently, the Veterinary Research Institute in Vom in Plateau State exports vaccine, animal vaccine, even to other countries, even up until now. And if we are able to research and keep that going, I wonder what we need to learn to do for humans. If we can do that for animals and keep it sustained that way, I wonder what we need to learn from there on how to sustain for humans. That is even most important.
We have the manpower, we have the technical team, experts, like he pointed out, the scientists are here. What is lacking is the enabling environment. What is lacking is the funding. And in one of my appearances on this platform, I mentioned that this is not what will live for the government alone, because health concerns everybody. That the private sector, if you go to Harvard and in the US and other parts of the world, corporate organizations commit some portion of their profits to research. They intentionally fund universities, research institutes. We can adopt that here and create a trust fund. It goes beyond talking about it.
But isn't it the role of government to attract and galvanize the public sector and their resources into that? Because the point there is there are lots of private sector or private companies doing different things at different levels for different communities and, at local levels.
Absolutely, the government should take the lead, and it is that is why there's this core government. It identifies what is for public interest and galvanize resources, build the collaboration,
mobilize resources.
Yes, and the resources include the government might even its own contribution may just be the platform. The private sector and the social sector, NGOs, credible NGOs work together to say, okay, this is how we drive this process. But government, as you said, must lead from the front. But there are conversations that can start. Kakovic was a private sector initiative that supported COVID-19 interventions. That sort of initiative needs to begin. Let the conversation even start from the private sector. Let us measure 1-2 steps, and then they engage the public sector. And when they see that there's commitment, there is strong will on the part of the private sector, government would key in. Because the way what we have in our hands is not a situation we need to wait until such a sweet time that somebody in government takes the first shot. We must work together, build collaborations to make this system work. Okay. Because we need to learn from what has happened from COVID-19. Like Dr. Nyala said, this will not be the last outbreak. We are glad that the curve is flattening. It's 300 and something as against 1,000 plus 2-3 weeks ago. But we must take advantage of this period to rebuild the system.
All right. Dr. Onyagala, the vaccines coming in today are given to Nigeria free of charge. And it is expected that it will be distributed or administered also free of charge to all Nigerians. Government has given that assurance. We recall that the chairman of the PTF stated it clearly. The DG of the National Primary Healthcare Development Authority stated it clearly too, that this vaccine is going to be free of charge to all Nigerians. Well, certainly we know that these government officials will not be everywhere in the country. When the vaccine leaves Abuja and is distributed maybe to villages in Taraba State or in Benue State or in Akwa Ibom State or in Sokoto State or in Oyo State, anything can happen. Talk to us from that window. What concerns do you have that this vaccine will remain free to everyone that is administered to?
Yeah, great. Thank you. As I recall, I was here a few weeks ago to talk about transportation, logistics, on vaccines and biologicals. Sorry to go back to the website the government has created for people to register for the vaccine. That program is strictly for people in the city. My grandma, who is 90 years, may not have access to internet. And then how do you capture him? And they have a lot of people living in the village. How do you capture them on that database? So government should have a plan for those category of people within remote areas, maybe far to reach and hard to reach areas. How do you capture them on that database? Because they may not have internet, they may not be literate enough to access the internet and then have your database captured. So government should look into that. That said, one good thing we have from AstraZeneca vaccine is ability to be transported within acceptable temperature, about 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. But in spite of that, we still have situations whereby that temperature chain is not maintained. And this is where we need to really pay attention critically. There has to be appropriate cold chain movement of these vaccines so that if it leaves point A at 2 degrees centigrade, I need to track the temperature to ascertain that's getting to Lagos or remote village in Sokoto within that same temperature. And I keep saying it is not verbal. There has to be an evidence-based system put in place to track that. So I expect people who are going to be involved in this vaccination to have temperature log, to have indicators that we know whether the temperature has exceeded the allowable range or not. These are challenges we have here, because somebody can take a vaccine from Lagos before he gets to a remote village in Kano, the temperature is gone. And so you're just jabbing people without necessarily giving them the appropriate viral antigen that they require to give them the necessary immunization. So maintaining the cold chain stipulated by AstraZeneca 2 to 8 is very critical for us to ensure that the vaccination or the vaccine we are going to give to our population gets the expected outcome. This is very, very critical.
All right. We have to leave it here now. Thank you so much, Dr. Augustine Onyagala, for joining us from Ibadan and lending your voice on this.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Yes. Now, Pascal, the question I asked him there, let me ask you too, because the point there is Nigerians are very concerned when government directive goes out on some of these things. By the time it gets to the final, the grassroots or the final point, it is not the same. When it comes to the cost, I was asking him about the issue of the cost. These things are coming to Nigeria free of charge, and government is saying it will be given free of charge. But how sure are we that it will be free to the final person in the village of Otukpo, for instance?
Yeah, about 4 million vaccines being administered at a go or a stretch of 30 to 90 days. We've not had that kind of situation perhaps in the last 30 years. And we had a more functional system 30 years ago than now. Even when we had polio, it was in pockets, not as much as this. And we have also seen from the experience of NIN that people, some complain that they were asked to pay when it's supposed to be free, as the case may be. So our goal is important for the government to design a man-e process. It's not just, it goes beyond the verbal pronouncement. You put in place monitoring and evaluation structures that will ensure that those who administer it do not charge people. And again, we also design a process that avoids breaching COVID-19 protocols, because there could be potential crowd in the events of that people begin to cluster in certain areas. But more importantly, you must know that this is likely to happen. So anticipate that is likely to happen and put in place a structure. It could be putting persons who would disguise as monitor, as people coming to take the vaccine, but actually going there to keep an eye to avoid. And then if you also catch 1, 2, 3 cases, you make an example of them, so that it will be a deterrence. And of course, government, just to conclude, government alone you may identify credible NGOs who may also offer that free for you to ensure that monitoring is effective.
Okay, this is really important. Thank you so much, Pascal Achinine, for your time on the program. Thank you.